She was just a teenager heading home, until airport staff treated her like a threat. They tried to intimidate her, but everything changed the moment her father showed up. Aaliyah Garrison pulled her hoodie over her head, settling into the stiff plastic chair near her gate at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Her backpack rested between her feet, her phone screen glowing as she scrolled mindlessly through messages. She was tired but excited. Home was just a few hours away. Her mother had booked her the direct flight weeks ago, double-checking everything like always. Aaliyah had traveled alone before, and this wasn't any different, or so she thought. A crackling voice over the intercom announced a flight delay, prompting a collective groan from the crowd. She sighed, adjusting the volume on her headphones. Then she noticed it, an older woman a few seats away stealing glances at her. Not the usual casual kind, the type that lingered a little too long. Aaliyah ignored it. People stared. It happened. But something about this woman's expression made her uneasy. Minutes later, a uniformed airport employee, middle-aged, stiff posture, walked toward her. She took out one earbud as he stopped in front of her. "Excuse me, miss, can I see your boarding pass?" Aaliyah blinked. Sure." She dug into her hoodie pocket and handed it over. He glanced at it, flipping it back and forth as if something was wrong. "Are you traveling alone?" She nodded. "Yeah, I do this all the time." The man pursed his lips. He handed the boarding pass back, but didn't move. "I need to see your ID as well." Aaliyah hesitated. Nobody else around her was being questioned. She looked past him, families, businessmen, couples. No one else was being asked for ID. "Is there a problem?" she asked, pulling her wallet from her bag. "Routine security check," he replied. "Just verifying information." She handed him her school ID, the only one she carried. He barely glanced at it before speaking again. "Where are your parents?" Aaliyah frowned. "I'm 16. I don't need my parents with me." The air felt different now. Charged. Tense. Aaliyah wasn't stupid. She knew what was happening. But she also knew better than to make a scene. "All right," the man said, nodding. "Stay here a moment." He walked away, leaving her gripping her phone tighter. The woman who had been staring earlier, now she was whispering to another staff member. The uneasy feeling in Aaliyah's stomach twisted tighter. A few minutes passed, and then two more airport employees approached. A tall, wiry man in a TSA uniform and a short woman with a badge clipped to her blazer. "Miss Garrison?" the woman asked, eyes sharp. "Yeah." "Can you come with us for a moment?" Aaliyah's heart pounded. She glanced at her phone, debating whether to call her dad, but decided against it. This had to be a mistake. "Why?" she asked, forcing herself to stay calm. "Your ticket was flagged for a security check," the TSA officer said. His tone was light, but his expression wasn't. Aaliyah stood, gripping the straps of her backpack. "Flagged? Why?" The woman smiled, tight, rehearsed. "Just a random screening. Nothing to worry about." Aaliyah glanced around. Nobody else was being pulled aside. She followed them, her pulse quickening. The whispers, the stares, the fact that nobody else had been randomly selected. She was starting to realize this wasn't about security, it was about her. But what happened next would prove that beyond any doubt. Aaliyah followed the two employees down the terminal, her steps quick and light, but her heart pounded heavier with every stride. The TSA officer led her toward a small screening area, one of those side rooms meant for additional checks. The space was mostly empty, except for another agent inside, a stocky man leaning against the desk, arms crossed. The woman in the blazer motioned for her to stop just inside the doorway. Set your bag down, she said. Aaliyah hesitated, then did as she was told. I don't get it, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I already went through security. The stocky man pushed off the desk, eyeing her up and down. We need to ask a few questions, that's all. Where are you flying to? Indianapolis. Who bought your ticket? My mom. The woman tilted her head. And you're traveling alone? Aaliyah frowned. Yeah, like I said before. The TSA officer exchanged a glance with the stocky man. Do you have a return ticket? No. I live there. The woman scribbled something down on a clipboard. Do you have family in Phoenix? Aaliyah sighed, crossing her arms. My uncle. But I was here for a basketball camp. Why does this matter? The woman ignored the question. How long were you in Phoenix? Aaliyah felt heat rise in her chest. This wasn't normal. She had flown alone plenty of times before. Same airline, same process, but she had never been pulled aside like this. Her fingers curled around the strap of her bag. This is ridiculous, she muttered under her breath. The stocky man stepped forward. Excuse me. She clenched her jaw, then exhaled slowly. I just don't get why I'm being questioned like this. The woman finally met her eyes. Your ticket was flagged. It happens sometimes. Aaliyah scoffed. To who? 'Cause I don't see anybody else getting stopped. Silence. The stocky man took another step forward. Miss, are you refusing to cooperate? Aaliyah's stomach dropped. No, Then we suggest you answer the questions without attitude, he cut in, his voice sharp. Her face burned, but she swallowed her anger. Fine. The woman tapped the clipboard. Have you ever been questioned by airport security before? Aaliyah's fingers twitched. No. Have you ever had issues with law enforcement? What? No. The woman nodded, making another note. Do you have any cash on you? What? Aaliyah stared at her, baffled. Why would that even? She stopped herself, inhaling through her nose. No. I have my debit card. The woman scribbled something again. All right. Step over here, please. Aaliyah's breath caught. Wait. Why? We need to check your bag. You already scanned it, she shot back. The TSA officer stiffened. Are you refusing a bag search? Aaliyah stared at them, her pulse hammering in her ears. If she said no, they'd push harder. If she said yes, they'd search it anyway. She took a step back. The stocky man reached for his radio. We might need additional assistance here. Aaliyah's chest tightened. For what? She asked, her voice rising. I haven't done anything. The woman held up a hand, her smile paper thin. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to worry about. Aaliyah's vision blurred with frustration. She couldn't believe this was happening. She unzipped her bag and shoved it toward them. Go ahead. The stocky man rifled through her things. Clothes, her journal, a charger, a half-empty bag of Skittles. Then, as if expecting something else, he patted the bottom of the bag, flipped it upside down and shook it. A pen rolled onto the table. That was it. He exchanged another glance with the TSA officer. All right, the woman finally said. You can put it back. Aaliyah grabbed her things, stuffing them back into her bag with shaky hands. Then the woman's voice cut through the room again. One last thing. Stand against the wall. Aaliyah's stomach clenched. Why? The woman smiled. We need to take your picture for documentation. That was it. Her fingers dug into the fabric of her hoodie. "No," she said. The stocky man's expression darkened. "Miss, no," she snapped, stepping back. "This is too much." "Security to Terminal 4, secondary screening area," the stocky man said into his radio. Aaliyah's hands shook. She had done nothing wrong, nothing, but they were treating her like a criminal. And the moment security arrived, she knew this was about to get a whole lot worse. But she had no idea just how far they were willing to take it. Aaliyah's pulse pounded in her ears as she watched the security officer stride into the room. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a hardened face that looked like it had seen decades of airport disputes. His uniform was crisp, his badge reflecting the harsh overhead lights. "What's the issue?" he asked. His eyes flicking between the TSA agents and Aaliyah, the stocky agent gestured toward her. "She's refusing to comply with standard security procedures." Aaliyah's jaw tightened. "That's not true." The woman in the blazer crossed her arms. "We asked for a simple photo for documentation, and she's making this difficult." Aaliyah felt her grip tighten around her backpack strap. "Because I shouldn't have to do this. I've done nothing wrong." The security officer exhaled through his nose, shifting his weight. "Miss, if they're asking for a photo, just take the picture and you can be on your way." Aaliyah shook her head. "No, I shouldn't have to be on my way. I should already be at my gate, waiting for my flight like everyone else." The tension in the room thickened. The TSA officer's voice dropped an octave. "Either you comply or we escalate this further." Aaliyah's breath caught. "Escalate to what?" "Arresting me for sitting at my gate." The woman clicked her pen impatiently. "You're causing a scene, Miss Garrison." Aaliyah let out a sharp laugh. "I'm causing a scene? You dragged me in here. I didn't do anything." The stocky agent took a step toward her. "You need to calm down." Aaliyah felt her hands start to shake again, but this time it wasn't just fear, it was anger. She glanced toward the open doorway, wondering if anyone outside could hear this. Passengers walked by, oblivious. If she screamed, would anyone help? Or would they just see what these people wanted them to see, an uncooperative teenager causing trouble? The security officer sighed, rubbing his temple. "Look, kid, if you won't cooperate, we'll have no choice but to remove you from the airport." Aaliyah's stomach dropped. "What?" "You're a potential security risk," the stocky agent said matter-of-factly. Her breath hitched. "A security risk? I'm a 16-year-old girl trying to get home." The woman in the blazer simply shrugged. "That's not our problem anymore." The security officer stepped aside, motioning toward the door. "Come on. We'll escort you out." Aaliyah's legs felt locked in place. Was this really happening? She forced herself to take a breath. "I want to call my dad." The stocky man scoffed. "That's not necessary." "Like hell it's not," Aaliyah snapped, yanking her phone out of her pocket. The woman reached forward. "Miss, put that away." Aaliyah pulled back, thumb pressing call before they could stop her. The ringing filled her ears, her heart hammering in her chest. One ring. Two. Then, "Aaliyah." Her father's voice was calm, steady, the exact opposite of how she felt right now. She exhaled shakily. "Dad, I need you now." The room fell silent. "What's going on?" His voice sharpened instantly. Aaliyah turned her back slightly to the agents. "They're kicking me out of the airport." Silence on the other end. Then low and firm. "Where are you?" "Some security room near Terminal 4. A chair scraped against the floor as the stocky man stepped forward. "Miss," end the call. Aaliyah turned, gripping the phone like a lifeline. No. You can't just throw me out without. I'm on my way. Her father's voice was so sure, so solid that for the first time since this started, she felt a flicker of hope. The security officer sighed. If she doesn't leave willingly, we'll have to call airport police. Aaliyah's breath hitched. Her father must have heard, because his voice came through sharp and unwavering. Don't move. Don't say another word. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And just like that, everything shifted. The security officer hesitated, his confidence flickering. The TSA agents exchanged uneasy glances. They had assumed she was alone. They had assumed no one was coming for her. But they were wrong. And when her father arrived, they were going to regret everything. The next 5 minutes felt like an eternity. Aaliyah stood rigid, arms crossed, her phone still clutched in her hand. The security officer and the TSA agents had stopped talking, but the tension in the room had only thickened. They were waiting, just like she was. Aaliyah swallowed hard. She had never been more relieved to hear her father's voice. But she knew what was coming. Terrence Garrison wasn't just any father. He was an attorney, a high-profile civil rights attorney. And if these people thought they could intimidate her, they had no idea who they were about to face. Outside the room, the muffled sounds of the terminal continued. Footsteps, luggage wheels rolling, announcements crackling over the intercom. It all felt surreal, like she was trapped in some kind of alternate reality, where just existing in an airport could get her thrown out. Then heavy footsteps, not rushed, not frantic. Deliberate. The stocky agent shifted, eyes flicking toward the door. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a navy blue suit stepped inside. His salt and pepper beard was neatly trimmed. His expression unreadable. But his eyes were sharp, assessing the room in seconds. Terrence Garrison had arrived. The room shifted. The security officer straightened. The woman in the blazer tucked her clipboard under her arm. Aaliyah exhaled. Dad. Terrence barely looked at her before turning his gaze to the security officer. Who's in charge here? The officer stepped forward. Sir, this is a restricted area. Not anymore, Terrence said coolly. He pulled out his phone and held up the screen. I just spoke to the airport's general counsel. They know I'm here now. Someone start explaining why my daughter was detained and threatened with removal. The woman in the blazer cleared her throat. Sir, we name. Terrence interrupted. She hesitated. Patricia Dawson. I'm with Airport Administration. He nodded, then turned to the TSA officer. And you? The man swallowed. James Wilcox. Terrence took a slow step forward. James. Patricia. My daughter was sitting at her gate, minding her business, and you pulled her into this room. You searched her bag, questioned her without cause, and then threatened to remove her from the airport. So again, I'll ask, why? No one spoke. Aaliyah crossed her arms. She wanted to see them say it out loud, that they assumed she was suspicious because of the way she looked. The stocky agent cleared his throat. Her ticket was flagged for additional screening. Terrence arched a brow. Really? And how many other passengers on that flight were flagged? Silence. He smirked. That's what I thought. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. Sir, this was a standard protocol. No, it wasn't. Terrence's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. You singled her out, harassed her, treated her like a criminal. Wilcox stepped in. We followed security procedures. No, Terrence snapped. You abused them. The room was dead silent. Then slowly, he pulled out his wallet and retrieved a card. He placed it on the desk between them. My office will be filing a formal complaint with TSA and the airport administration. If necessary, we will pursue legal action for racial discrimination and unlawful detention. Aaliyah's heart swelled. Patricia swallowed. Sir, save it, Terence said, pocketing his phone. You only regret it because I showed up. He turned to Aaliyah, his expression softening. You okay? She nodded, though the lump in her throat made it hard to speak. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder before looking back at the group. You're going to personally walk her back to her gate, he said, and you're going to apologize. Patricia and Wilcox exchanged nervous glances. The security officer let out a slow breath. Understood. Aaliyah exhaled shakily. She wasn't afraid anymore, because now they were the ones scrambling. But what happened next would make them regret this even more. The walk back to the gate was eerily quiet. Aaliyah could feel the weight of every stare as the security officer, Patricia, and Wilcox trailed behind her and her father. The same people who had yanked her from her seat now looked like they wished they could disappear. Terence walked beside her. His presence as solid as a brick wall. He didn't need to raise his voice or throw accusations. His silence alone was enough to unnerve them. When they arrived at the gate, Aaliyah's seat was still empty. Her bag was still there, right where she had left it, as if nothing had happened. But everything had. Terence turned, folding his arms. Well, Patricia cleared her throat, shifting uncomfortably under his gaze. Miss Garrison, we apologize for the inconvenience. Aaliyah arched a brow. That's it. Wilcox exhaled. We regret the misunderstanding. Terence let out a sharp laugh. Misunderstanding? No. I think you understood perfectly well what you were doing. Patricia's hands twitched at her sides. Sir, do you have children? Terence cut in, tilting his head slightly. She hesitated. Yes. Imagine this was your child. His voice was quiet, but his words carried weight. Imagine them being treated like a criminal for no reason. Imagine them being scared, humiliated. Would we regret the misunderstanding be enough for you? She looked away. Aaliyah watched, chest tightening, as the reality of what had happened finally seemed to sink in for them. Maybe they had done this before. Pulled aside someone who looked like her. Assumed the worst. Justified it as protocol. But this time, they were being held accountable. The murmurs around them grew louder. Other passengers had started paying attention. A few had probably seen Aaliyah being pulled away earlier. Now they were seeing her return, flanked by security, her father standing firm in the middle of it all. Terence glanced around the terminal, then turned back to the staff. Do you know who I am? Patricia's expression tightened. Yes, sir. Good. Then you know this isn't over. Wilcox shifted on his feet. Sir, if you're suggesting, I'm not suggesting anything. Terence's voice was smooth, controlled. I'm telling you there will be a formal complaint. There will be an investigation. And when the public hears about this, you're going to have to answer for every single decision you made today. Patricia's face paled. Aaliyah could see it now, the slow realization creeping in. The headlines. The backlash. The possibility of losing their jobs. And for the first time, they looked nervous. But Terence wasn't done. He turned to the security officer. I want the names of everyone involved. I want a written report of exactly why my daughter was detained. And I want it before she boards her flight. The man nodded stiffly. I'll have it sent to you immediately. Aaliyah tightened her grip on her backpack, her fingers still trembling slightly. She had felt so small in that security room, so powerless. But standing here now, watching them scramble to fix what they had done, she felt something different. She felt seen. Patricia straightened, pressing her lips together. "Miss Garrison, we truly—" "Save it," Aaliyah interrupted. She wasn't interested in their empty apologies. Not now. Not ever. Terence checked his watch. "Her flight boards in 10 minutes. You've wasted enough of her time." With that, he turned, guiding Aaliyah back toward her seat. The staff stood there, motionless, unsure whether to stay or leave. The power had shifted, and they knew it. As Aaliyah sat down, Terence leaned against the seat beside her, exhaling. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think so." She wasn't sure if she really meant it. The weight of what had happened was still pressing down on her. But at least now, she didn't have to carry it alone. But this wasn't just about her anymore. And soon, the whole world would know it. Aaliyah sat in her seat, gripping her phone as her father typed something on his. She knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't going